Hello students, my name is Bilal BS. Today we are going to study audit strategy, planning and programming. That is the chapter 2 of the auditing. Audit strategy. There was a concept. Designing an audit strategy is the backbone of an audit planning. First comes audit strategy, then comes audit planning, then comes audit execution. Based on the strategy, planning is done. Based on plan, executions are made. At the end, audit report is done. So there was a question asked by the ICI that designing an audit strategy is the backbone of an audit planning process. Discuss once again. Designing audit strategy is the backbone of audit planning process. Discuss. So designing audit strategy, audit strategy is concerned with the designing optimized audit approaches that seeks to achieve three things. That seeks to achieve necessary assurance, the objective of the audit is to give the opinion reasonable assurance. So the necessity for audit strategy, number one is necessary to audit assurance. Number two is at the lowest cost. At the lowest cost, the audit should give necessary audit assurance within constraint time, within limited time. So this is why audit strategy is required. So this is why audit strategy, designing optimized audit approaches that seeks to achieve necessary audit assurance at lowest cost within constraint of time, because at the year end financial assessment closed, but this may take around 1 month to finalize the account. So within 3 to 4 months, you have to make a audit report. For that, audit plan, audit execution is required. For this purpose, audit strategy required. For so within a constraint of time, audit strategy should be prepared. So to achieve the necessary audit assurance at lowest cost within constraint. These are the introductory paragraph for designing the audit strategy is the backbone of audit planning. Discuss. It is asked to discuss. So main thing is activities required for designing the audit strategy. These are the objectives for the audit strategy. Whenever the question asked in the examination, you have to find out the crux of the question. What is the objective of the question? What I explained, this is not the objective of this given question. What is the objective? Activities of the designing audit strategy. This is what I explained. This is just an introductory paragraph. The crux of the question is, what are the activities or factors involved in designing the audit strategy? What requires the auditor to establish an audit strategy? What requires to make audit strategy? I'm asking rule wise, rules, laws wise. Yes, correct. You know, SA 300, planning and audit of financial statement. So SA 300, planning and audit of financial statements, requires the auditor to establish an strategy, audit strategy, that sets up scope. Number one, that sets up scope, that sets up timing, that sets up direction of the audit. You know how depth audit watching should be done. That is the scope. Within a time period, audit should be done. What direction, what areas, what factors should be checked at the end of the period, how within period. That is the direction given by the audit partner. So this requires to make audit strategy. This is the SA 300 by the ICAI. So as per SA 300, planning and audit of financial statement requires the auditor to establish an audit strategy that sets the scope, timing and direction of audit. So we will move on to main part of the concept, that is audit strategy is designed by the various activities. What are the activities that designs the audit strategy? Number one, obtaining knowledge of business. Obtaining the knowledge of business. Which essay? Essay 315, understanding the entity and getting the knowledge. Correct. On that basis, audit strategy is made. This is the very important activity in order to design the audit strategy. So SA 315 requires that the auditor to obtain sufficient knowledge of the business to enable him to identify and understand the events, transaction and practices that in his judgment may have significant effect on the financial statement or an audit report. So if you, this is asked by the ICAI in the examination. So this is the main activity required for designing the audit strategy. Second one, performing analytical procedures. This is SA 520, correct? So use of analytical procedures, that is a ratios, plausible ratios, using common sense, that is the analytical procedure. For example, analytical procedure, this is the floor is there, floor where the goods are kept, maximum capacity is 5000 unit, but the financial statement tells in this godown 15,000 capacity of units are kept as a closing stock. So this is not possible. This is analytical procedure where 15,000 maximum 5000 units are capable of maximum limit, but the financial statement shows 15,000 units. So this is by using analytical procedure, this is wrong. So we will go extended procedure to look into physical verification. That time we will come to know. On that we can give reasonable assurance. So performing analytical procedure at initial stage, we are not giving the opinion here itself, but we are just making plan strategy. So performing analytical procedure at initial stage, this is the one of the activities required or designed to audit strategy. The use of analytical procedures during the planning stage requires the extensive use of maybe accounting and business knowledge and experience to the assess the potential for material misstatement in the financial statement as a whole. So that is the point number 2. Point number 3, evaluating the inherent risk. Inherent risk is always there. We cannot reduce that risk, but we can evaluate how it affects to opinion, how it affects the audit opinion. That is have to be evaluated in order to make design audit strategy to assess inherent risk. The auditor should evaluate numerous factors having regard to his experience of the entity from previous audit engagement of the entity, controls established by the management, and his knowledge of any significant changes which might have taken place since last assessment. So 3 things are very important: experience from the last assessment, and the controls establishment by the management, internal controls, and the third one, any significant changes compared to last assessment. By evaluating the inherent risk, they have to design audit strategy. This is the third point. First one is obtaining knowledge of business, second is performing analytical procedures at initial stages, third evaluating inherent risk, fourth one evaluating internal control system for strategy purpose. Evaluating internal control system for Strategy purpose. So for strategy purpose, the auditor should obtain sufficient understanding of the control environment, internal control. The auditor needs to understanding of the accounting system, regardless whether audit strategy will involve extended assessment of internal accounting controls or not. So evaluating internal cost of control system for strategy purpose. These are the 4 points required under to design audit strategy. We will move on to next concept. What are the major sources of obtaining information about the client's business? What are the major sources of obtaining the information about the client's business? This was asked in the examination also. Major sources of obtaining major sources of obtaining information about client business. Once this was asked in the examination. So first is annual reports circulated among the shareholders. So from the annual reports information can be obtained. Annual report which are circulated among the shareholders, minutes of the meeting of the shareholders, directors and their committees, minutes of meetings. Point number 3 is internal reports over financial aspect for current and previous periods including budgets. So internal reports. Point number 4, working papers of previous audits. Working papers of previous audits, previous year's audit. Fifthly, the policies and procedures of manual of the client. Policy and procedures. Manual of the client. From there we can get the information. Sixth one, discussion with client, direct discussion with client. We can obtain the information of the client's business. Publications of the ICAI, how to deal with the particular industry. Publications of the ICAI, other professional bodies, industry publication, trade journals, newspapers, etc. So from there we can understand the industry better. Eighth one is consideration of general state of the economy and its effects on the client's business. So state of the economy, general state of the economy. Last point is visit to the premise of the client. So once again, annual reports of circulated among the shareholders, minutes of meetings of shareholders, directors and their committees, internal reports over financial aspects for current and previous periods including budgets, working papers of previous year's audit, policy and procedures manual of the client, discussion with the client, publications of the ICI, other professional bodies, industry publications, trade journals, newspapers, etc. Consideration of general state of the economy and its effects on the client's business, and visit to the premise of the client. These are the major sources of the obtaining information about the client's business. So this may be asked for 4 marks. So we will move on to next concept in audit strategy. Matters determined by the audit strategy with respect to the team resources. Matters determined by the audit strategy with respect to the team resources. So this was asked in the examination also. You know, right, how team works in audit? Team, I will give you experience. Team, how we work. Audit team. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the team. This is the team of audit. These are the audit assistants. All are audit assistants. For example, these 5 people are articles. 6th and 7th workers of the audit firm. These are the audit team. For them, audit manager, audit senior will be there. So these individual tasks done by the audit assistant of a one audit program, audit engagement. This is specifically carried out by the one person. Each specific areas done by the each person. For example, TDS, inventory, and so on. These are reviewed by the audit senior. This is the manager. On top of him, there is a audit partner. So he is the responsible person to give the opinion. Overall responsibility is audit partner. So these people works reviewed by him. These are directed and supervised by him, and directly he can supervise, but these are works are reviewed by him. These ultimately reviewed by the work of the audit, reviewed by the audit partner. Like this audit team works. So ICI asked in the examination, matters determine the audit strategy with respect to team resources. Matters determined by the audit strategy with respect team resource. So what are the matters determined by the audit strategy? The first matter is employment of qualitative resources. Employment of qualitative resources. This means deploying the persons for a complex work, difficult task, experienced team member is required. When there is a high risk area is there, high risk or a complex task involved in the audit, for this experienced person is required. So employment deploying the experienced person in the high risk complex, this is known as employment of qualitative resources. So that is the one matter determined by the audit strategy with respect to team resources, employment of qualitative resources. So this audit strategy helps in deploying the appropriate resources for specific audit areas. As I give an example, such as the use of the experienced team members for the high risk areas or the involvement of experts on the complex matters. This is the first point. Second point, allocation of quantitative resources. Allocation of quantitative resources. Quantitative. First one is the qualitative, second one is the quantity. Allocation of quantity resources. This means sometimes more than one person is required for one task. More than one person required for one task. Sometimes only one person is enough. Only one person is enough. For example, in case of inventory count, more than one person is required. So appropriate on the basis of risk of areas, on the basis of areas, appropriate number of appointed for the audit work, appropriate number of audit assistants or the worker managers appointed for the work. So allocation of quantity of resources is one of the matters determined by the audit strategy. So audit strategy helps in allocating the appropriate number of resources to specific audit areas, such as the number of team members assigned to observe the inventory count at material locations, the extent of review of other auditors' works in the case of group audits, or the audit budget in hours to allocate to high risk areas. This is the second point. Third point, timing of deployment of resources. This is with regard to in case of a final audit, cut-off date, timing, or interim audit. So what is the time required? What is the time? So required interim audit stage. Timing of deployment of resources. Audit strategy helps in determining the timing of deploying the resources, such as whether at an interim audit stage or at key cutoff dates. Fourth point, management of resources. Management of resources. This is, for example, on-site, off-site, team meetings, team briefing and debriefing meetings, So on this case, management of resources, audit strategy helps in managing, directing, supervising the resources, such as when team briefing and debriefing the meetings are expected to be held, how engagement partner and manager reviews are expected to take place, for example on site, off site, and whether to complete engagement quality control reviews. So this is the fourth point. First one is employment of qualitative resources, second allocation of quantity of resources, third timing of deployment of resources, fourth is and last is management of resources. These are the matters determined by audit strategy with respect to team resources. So we will move on to next concept. There was one question asked by the ICI. As an auditor of garment manufacturing company, this is a manufacturing company, garment manufacturing company, okay. For the last 5 years you are auditing, you have observed that, now you have observed that new venture of online shopping has been added. New venture, this is added to this company. This is a new venture. So this is different. This is a manufacturing. Now it is a different online shopping by the company during the current year. As an auditor, what are the factors would be considered by you in formulating the audit strategy of the company? What are the factors? Question is simple. What are the factors would be considered by you in formulating audit strategy? Before answering this concept, this question, ICA comments that after each examination, ICAI examiner will comment, right? On this, examiner commented that students focused on areas, not on factors formulating the audit strategy. They written what are the areas of the audit strategy. So candidates have not focused on factors to be considered in formulating audit strategy, and instead they elaborated the areas of audit, and the answers were general in nature. They could not write general and specific factors of audit strategy for online shopping. So we have to give general factors and the specific audit strategy for online shopping. So we will move on to the answer. Auditor should develop audit strategy after considering these factors. Number one, these are the general factors. We will move on to specific factors later on. So we have to write general factors and then specific factors of audit strategy for online shopping. As a general factor, point number one is, what is this company's objective, the engagement objective? What is this company's audit engagement? What is the audit objective? What is this company's objective? We have to understand engagement, audit engagement objectives. Yes, of course, to give fair and true and fair opinion. So the engagement objective. Second is the result of the business review. The result of the business review. After every year, business will be reviewed. What is the result of that, including major developments in the client's business, whether there are major developments took place, and industry, whether in the industry major developments happen, significant operating results, financial arrangements. These has to be factors to be considered. Third one, preliminary judgments as to materiality. Preliminary judgment as to materiality. Preliminary judgment before taking up the audit, auditor has to judge, has to fix the amount for the materiality. Below this amount, this is not material. Above this amount, material. As this will influence the decision of the users. This will not influence. So these factors, this amount should be preliminary judgment as to materiality has to be considered while formulating the audit strategy. Fourth point, identified inherent risk. So inherent risk should be, it is the one of the factors to be considered in formulating the audit strategy. The team should also consider the risk of fraud, in particular any evidence of high level of risk to the firm. So identified inherent risk. Identified inherent risk has to be considered. The degree to which the team should carry out the further assessment of controls as a means of reducing the substantive test. So degree of to which the team should carry out the further assessment of the controls. Further assessment of the controls to reduce the substantive test. You know, right? We have two concepts: internal control, substantive test. If internal control is very good, everything is perfectly maintained, system is followed, whatever the policies are maintained are strictly followed by the organization, by the company, then substantive test will be reduced. This is watching every bills, everything is will be checked. This is the substantive test, known as substantive test. So when the internal control is very good, reduce in the substantive test. When the internal control is not good, low, then substantive test will be high. Time will taken more here. So for that, it is one of the factors to be considered in formulating the audit strategy. The degree to which the team should carry out further assessment of controls as a means of reducing substantive test. Next point, sixth point, broad nature, extent and timing of substantive test, or changes to the importance strategy for substantive testing. So next we will move on to broad nature or timing, extent of substantive test. What kind of the substantive test, within how many period, how depth should be checked. So these factors will be considered in formulating the audit strategy. the broad nature, extent and timing of substantive test. Seventh point, in general factors, points relating to planning and controlling the audit or comments on the adequacy of the existing arrangement. So points related to planning and controlling the audit. Planning and controlling the audit. Whatever the points, important points should be considered. These are the general factors. When the question asked with regard to online shopping, manufacturing company added new venture in this year. 5 years audited manufacturing company. Now auditor faced new venture. They added new venture. So how? What are the factors to be considered in formulating audit strategy? So specific factors. Specific factors of audit strategy for online shopping. First point is nature of transactions. Now nature is different. Online shopping, nature of transaction. So this factor has to be considered. This is a preliminary. Nature of transaction significant to the financial statement. Then next is procedures within both information IT and manual system. So now IT will come, right? Information technology will come because it is a online shopping. So both procedures to be understood. Procedures within both information technology and manual system by which transaction are initiated, how it is initiated, how it is recorded, how it is processed, how it is corrected if necessary, how it is transferred to the general ledger and reported in the financial statement. So these are the procedures to be understood. So procedures within both IT and manual systems by which transaction are initiated, recorded, processed, corrected if necessary, transferred to the general ledger and reported in the financial statements. This is the second point. Third point is the system by which information system captures the events and conditions other than the transactions that are significant to the financial statement. So the system by which information system captures the events and how system captures events and transactions and conditions. System by which information system captures events and conditions other than transactions that are significant to the financial statement. Always significant to the financial statement. Last point is controls used to record non-recurring unusual transactions or adjustment. So controls used, point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, to record non-recurring transactions, unusual transactions, or adjustments. Non-recurring transactions, unusual transaction, non-recurring adjustment, unusual adjustments. These are the last point. So this is concerned with the specific factors of audit strategy for online shopping. So this is with regard to the first concept of the chapter 2, audit strategy. So we have audit strategy, audit planning, audit programming in the chapter 2. So first part is completed. Thank you.